going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz, Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, here with your May 20th, 2020 NXT review. Before we talk about the show, gotta talk about sort of the weird week it is this week in the world and also with wrestling, and it's not great, so, you know, how I pontificate for a second, so I hope you'll indulge me. I mean, COVID's still a thing. I'm going to call it COVID. I'm going to call it coronavirus. I'm not monetized on YouTube. Come at me if you want to. I'll go over to my podcast if you want to strike down this channel. I really, really don't care, especially after the YouTube glitch that happened literally while this review was playing last week. But COVID is still a thing. COVID's weird. It's weird because, I don't know about you guys in your areas, but in Ontario, they're actually starting to slowly open things up. And it's bizarre to me how people are fighting more now that we sort of see a light at the end of the tunnel than they were when the shit was really bad and we were sort of under lock and key. So, we're all dealing with that. The Vice series, the what is it, Dark of the Ring, or whatever it is, did their Owen Hart thing sometime in the past week, and I know that that's been pretty much on everybody's lips, so it becomes... I haven't watched it. And, talking to my good friend and sometimes co-host Jake DeMarco earlier today, I sort of figured out why. It's the Owen Hart thing, and I don't say this in a disrespectful way. We know what happened. It's been a part of wrestling lore and one of the darkest moments in wrestling lore for a long time. So I don't need to hear the story again. I don't need to be, you know, sad all over again. And I think every time somebody wants to talk about it or do a documentary, or they just... people talk about sad stories in wrestling in general, and obviously the Owen Hart tragedy is going to be on that list. And it is a tragedy. And it's not to say that it doesn't deserve the attention. It's just, I don't need, personally as a wrestling fan who remembers when that happened, I remember watching Over the Edge, and I remember, you know, trying to figure out what the fuck happened when they glitched the screen and sort of threw some graphics up so that we couldn't see what was going on. I don't need to relive that again. I don't need a new... I mean, apparently the Vice things are really good. I haven't watched any of them, I'm not going to lie. People whose opinions I trust a whole lot in this community all say that they're really, really good. And for the people that are enjoying them, for the people that are getting some either some education, or I don't want to say enjoyment because that's the wrong word, but if you're finding some value in those, this is not a dig at you. It's just, as a wrestling fan, it's not a scab I want to pick at again. I hope that makes sense. But when it does come out and when the conversation comes up, it comes back into our collective consciousness. So yeah, we think about, you know, the Owen thing, and that really fucking sucked. And, you know, they start talking about his kids and how they, you know, you start thinking about how they grew up without a dad, or if they remember, then, you know, how horrifying that day was. And I don't need to be retold that story. Is just personally, having that back in the consciousness over the past sort of 7 days or so has been a really, really weird thing. And then, obviously, we get the really, really shit news about what happened to Shad Gaspard when he was out swimming with his son, and they got pulled into I think they said a riptide. I don't know what the terminology is. It doesn't really matter. His son was saved. He wasn't. They searched him out, and eventually they found him a couple days later, declared him dead, etc. And that's... you know, as wrestling fans, we can only really take so much, and I said it on Twitter, you know, wrestling fans take a lot of pot shots on each other and you know, piss on each other a whole lot, but the wrestling community, especially now, this is the time where you sort of put that shit on the back burner. Don't back down, don't let other people walk all over you, but sort of put that shit aside for a second, and as a community, it's one of those times where we sort of reach out to each other and see how each other are doing, because it's a shitty time. I will say, and I don't think one person's life can be summed up in a tag team, because, you know, that doesn't define you as a person, and also it's not like JTG also passed away, but you see an act like Crime Time and the charisma that Crime Time had, and and again, I mean this in the most respectful way possible, there are tag teams today in AEW and in WWE that are trying to recapture the sort of natural vibe, the natural fun connection to the crowd that a team like Crime Time had. And I mean, people these days are doing it in their own way, and it's not to say that they're failing, but people liked Crime Time, and yeah, it was crass, and yeah, it was rude, and it was back then when they were pushing the envelope a little bit more, and you know, they threw Lita's underwear in the crowd because it was hilarious, and so it was questionable. Some people these days might call it problematic, but they were really good, and the crowd loved them, and the crowd, you know, people will hop on any rumor that that Crime Time were coming back to WWE because they were just a good team, and by all accounts, you know, they were great dudes. Whatever. Watching What Culture over the past couple of days, and because Crime Time had a chance to work with the folks over at What Culture, to hear them talk about it, you know, these are proper news people, not like me just up here shooting the shit. And so they, you know, think about how many deaths they've had to announce to the wrestling world, for those of us that go to them for the news. And they're now reporting on a friend, a colleague, somebody that they've worked with that they've lost, and that's an entirely different level. But as you say, I mean, not that it wouldn't be sad anyway, but by all accounts, like I say, great guy, much like you go back to the Owen Hart thing, great guy, sort of universally loved, and it's just a bit shit. So between the Owen stuff surfacing again and the terrible news about Shad Gaspard and just the ongoing global situation, I just wanted to start off this video today saying I hope you guys are doing good, and I'm going to say what I've been saying for the past little while, is if you're not good, talk to somebody, and it's not me, for sure, because I'm not anybody that can deal with those types of things. But I mean, my Twitter's open, my Instagram's open, my Facebook group, the Spaz Phoenix Podcast on Facebook, is open. But doesn't necessarily have to be me, doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, a professional or whatever. We're in some shitty times, and I hope if you guys are having shitty times that you have somebody to talk to, somewhere to let out your frustrations, some sort of outlet, because the world ain't okay right now. And I cling to wrestling, as I'm sure you do if you're watching this right now. You know, all my typical jabs at AEW aside, they've got Double or Nothing this weekend, and I know that there are people that love AEW the way I love NXT. So in these times, I'm happy for you guys. Side note, I'm hoping to get Guapo back on the channel. We haven't had Guapo on the channel for a while, hoping to talk about everything going into AEW, what's their rip-off Rumble in the Bank ladder match that they're doing. I'm going to get yelled at for that. The big Stadium Stampede, Jericho and the Elite and all that sort of thing. There's a lot of good stuff to talk about, and if that's your cup of tea, then you're probably watching AEW right now instead of waiting for me to put this video out. So find some good shit, find some wrestling, find some, you know, I've been doing the movie reviews. We did the movie review of Godzilla King of the Monsters on Tuesday. Kristen and I are going to be shortly moving into the Alien trilogy from back in the day. If you're finding some value in that, come along and join us for the ride. If you are an NXT fan like me, hang out right here, listen to me blather on about NXT. Talk to people. Our community's pretty good, and in shit times, we need good people. And I've rambled on about really, really morose stuff for about 10 minutes now. So I'm going to try to stop doing that. Talk about what I thought was a pretty genuinely good episode of NXT. We didn't have the typical NXT previously on video package at the beginning because they did the 10 bells for Shad Gaspard, and you know what? That's what you do in these situations. But then we immediately go to KROSS and Scarlett, or aka Scarlett Bordeaux, making their kick-ass entrance because they're taking on some jobber, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even catch the jobber's name, but here's how it goes. Doomsday Saito, rolling German, Doomsday Saito, cross jacket, Cross gets the win. They're celebrating, they're about to like eat face in the ring because, I mean, look at Scarlett. Wouldn't you? I'm just saying. And then the heartbeat, the flatline hits, and out comes Ciampa. And I can't remember the last time we saw Ciampa. It was the first time Karrion Kross attacked him, wasn't it? And that was several weeks ago now at this point. We've come a long way from One Last Beat. Even the One Last Beat was classic. Ciampa comes out, and immediately, I'm thinking, there's something here. Like, I wanted to see this match anyway. I talked about this last week. I talked about this later last week when I did my fantasy booking for TakeOver in Your House, which I think is already shaping up to be a really good show. You see these guys stare each other down for the first time, and you're like, there's something here. There's something, there should be more story here. This could main event the pay-per-view, even though we don't know what the title match is yet. But there's something there, and before Ciampa is a menacing force. I wouldn't necessarily say he's always the best talker. He gives good promos, but his promos are good not because of what he says. It's because of how he carries himself, and the words and the verbiage are secondary. That's my personal opinion. You don't have to agree if you don't want to. But he sort of says, you know, he's walking down the ring, he's doing his slow walk that Ciampa does, and it's to be expected, but also he's sort of got this curious look on his face, like, here's this brand new, again, this is going to sound really bad, but here's this new thing I can play with as far as Karrion Kross goes. He says, allow me to introduce myself. I am Tommaso Ciampa, and this is my house. You attacked the main event attraction. You tried to make a point, and I actually appreciate it. He talks about how he's, 6 foot whatever, and he says, you're special. That locker room back there is the best locker room out there, and you managed to be special in that locker room. You've even got a killer entrance, which is what everybody was talking about. And also, killer had to be a dig because he used to be Killer Kross, which is fine. As he's walking into the ring, I love the confidence of Karrion Kross and Scarlett, because Scarlett sort of slinks her way to the ring, parts the ropes, and lets Ciampa into the ring. He says, you know who else is special? Me. You know what else is going to be special? June 7th, where it's Ciampa versus Kross at TakeOver. That's special. So welcome to the main event. And he didn't drop the mic, but it was a mic drop, and I just immediately TakeOver is good. And I mean, I talked about that in my fantasy booking, but they already sort of laid out the tile for that, so that really wasn't a win for me. It's just I jump on what they're already giving us. Anyways, more action in Group B of the NXT Interim Cruiserweight Championship Round Robin Tournament. There we go. I said it without fucking it up. It's great. Phantasma versus Tozawa for, I guess this was for the final of Group B. There's a collar and elbow tie and a series of pinfall attempts by both men, a test of strength, and they trade some trips and arm drags. Chops by both men, a single jab and a head scissor by Tozawa, an apron rana by Tozawa, and a cannonball off the steps. Let's trigger a bunch of people and call it the Wonton Senton, shall we? After the commercial break, there's a trip and a boot by Phantasma and a splash on the apron. Edge senton by Phantasma, a series of kicks and a German suplex by Tozawa. The German suplex by Tozawa is always really, really painful looking. Can I just point that out? Top rope gutbuster by Phantasma basically takes him up on the shoulders. He jumps off the turnbuckle himself and drops Tozawa belly first onto the turnbuckle bolt, which looks like it wrecks. Wheelbarrow bulldog by Tozawa and a top rope senton as my clipboard tries to fall down. We're not doing that. Forearms into the corner by Tozawa, a dropkick by Phantasma, a suicide dive by Phantasma, and a back elbow, an octopus stretch by Tozawa, but Phantasma counters it into the Phantom Driver for the win. And if I understand this correctly, I can't rewind because I'm watching on a shitty stream where I have to watch shitty American commercials. I think he's the finalist for Group B. If I'm not mistaken, I don't have the scorecard in front of me either. They do some video packaging from last week. They play through the entire tag team title story from last week, from Imperium becoming the new champs, to Thatcher walking out, to the attacks backstage, to the match they had, to the Thatcher attack after losing to Matt Riddle in the main event. It's all good. And then there's a challenge by Thatcher, and he refers to losing by pinfall as a fluke. You know, it's supposed to be all about tap-outs and knockouts. There's no silly pinfalls in the next match we have, which is kind of taking a jab at pro wrestling in general, but that's fine. But we're going to have a match. It's going to happen soon. It's going to be by knockout or tap-out only, and you can even pick the place. And we hear that we're going to hear from Riddle late in the night. There is a promo from my girl Shotzi Blackheart. And I'm not going to talk about it here. I'm going to say you need to go back and watch this promo. I fucking love Shotzi Blackheart. Mia Yim versus Santana Garrett was a thing, because the commentators the entire time were talking about the Gargano story, but the Garganos, plural, story. So Mia Yim versus Santana Garrett was really designed just to get Mia Yim out into the ring, was it not? Arm drags by both women, there's a kitchen sink by Garrett, a back elbow, a rolling vertical by Garrett, a dragon suplex by Yim, followed by a protect your neck, and Yim gets the win. Santana Garrett has had, like, 2 matches that I can remember in the past forever, and she somehow escaped Black Wednesday. Don't get me wrong. Don't misinterpret me. I do not vouch for anybody losing their job. But what's she done? Or what have they done with her is a more fair question. I don't get it. Candice and Johnny come out. Gargano is mocking Mia Yim's music, and Candice just coming out and sort of reiterating what they said at the Dinner with the Garganos thing last week. Congrats on your win. It was a really nice win. It's the kind of win you should have had against Charlotte. You know, when you had your millionth opportunity, you dropped the ball once again. You dropped the ball where I would have thrived. And why don't we... and Gargano basically says, hey, hun, why don't you show her what happens when you don't do things the Gargano way and you get handed things you don't deserve. So Yim boots Gargano off the apron, which was hilarious. Candice tries to take out Yim. They brawl for a little bit, and the save is made by Keith Lee, leading to the mixed tag that we all knew was coming after last week's promo. Anybody that saw my fantasy booking of In Your House from last Friday, we're getting the tag team match that I talked about. I doubt we're getting the stipulations that I told you about. If you're curious, if you didn't see that video, go back. It's me rambling about what I think should happen at In Your House, and I think a lot of it makes sense, and I took one really wacky set of stipulations to put on this match in particular that I think would work out, but I don't think they're going to do it. Anyways, we replay the Priest attack on Balor last week, and, him revealing himself as the attacker that had jumped him several weeks before, where there wasn't really a jumping, there was an empty locker room with a shirt in it. Anyways, surprising match of the night. I have, for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks now, said I don't know what to think about Dexter Lumis. I don't care about his squash matches, and I'm weirdly intrigued when they sort of randomly insert him into the main event. So when they said Dexter Lumis versus Roderick Strong for this week, I really didn't know what to expect. But this was surprisingly good. And I know a lot of the credit goes to Roderick Strong, and it's been said. It's kind of like Shawn Michaels, it's kind of like Dolph Ziggler, it's kind of like Daniel Bryan. If you can't have a good match with Roderick Strong, maybe you shouldn't be there. So that's definitely the case. But I was not expecting this match to be this good. An interesting storytelling thing. After last week, when they had the big Skype call, the Undisputed Era Skype call, which everybody said was a ripoff of the Bubbly Bunch, because obviously Chris Jericho invented video calling, except, oh wait, he didn't. They all universally decided to throw Roderick Strong under the bus, and under that bus was Dexter Lumis. So now this week, to sort of follow up on that, they come down to the ring. They come down to the ring with Roderick Strong. It's Fish, it's Cole. I think Kyle O'Reilly is in some movie somewhere. I think they mentioned that last week, so he wasn't there. The entire time they're going down to the ring, it's got the Undisputed Era music playing, and what's his name? Roderick Strong's all like hyped up for the fight and whatever. Adam Cole is talking directly to the camera, not having anything to do with Roderick Strong whatsoever, just talking himself up, talking up next week him being champion for a year and he's the greatest and that's undisputed. Now, that could be nothing. That could be NXT's way of just hyping you up for next week and telling you what you can expect, or it could be another little link in the chain that gets us to the falling apart of the Undisputed Era, in the sense that not only did, if you're thinking about it from Roderick Strong's point of view, not only did you guys all vote to throw me under the bus this week, you came down to the ring with me so you could talk about yourself, Adam. I also thought that it was kind of funny, something I found online earlier today. Somebody said, oh, that person was me, if Adam Cole is Michael Cole's son, then he's the coal miner. Just let that sit. It's a shitty dad joke. You know what else is a shitty dad joke? What do you call an animal that doesn't matter? irrelevant. Moving on, Strong tries to work the arm and Loomis reverses overhead wrist lock by... we're going far away from those jokes because they're fine. Ankle pick by Strong, side headlock. I can't read my writing, fuck me. Drop toe hold, body shot by Loomis, scoop slam, leg drop by Loomis, and a knee strike by Strong. Chops by Strong, a boot and a bulldog by Loomis. I'm really tired, and it was a vacation day for us here on Monday, so I haven't even worked a full week. We're 2 days into the work week for me. I shouldn't be this tired. My writing shouldn't be this shitty. I apologize to you, especially to you guys that are listening in audio form. I appreciate you. Subscribe and do a 5-star gimmick, whatever. Both men brawl to the outside. There's a backbreaker on the apron by Strong as we go to commercial break. Coming back from the commercial break, we get a running elbow by Strong and a backbreaker and a seated abdominal stretch. Both men trade some shots. There's an angle slam by Strong, which is reasonably impressive. I mean, Loomis is significantly bigger than him. Boot by Loomis, a flying Thez press with mounted punches, a high back body drop by Loomis. The back body drop by Loomis got some height, I will say that. Slingshot vertical suplex by Loomis, back elbow by Strong, some chops, a heavy strikes to the head. Spinebuster by Loomis, but a weird matchbook style cover pin combination by Strong gets the win. Sort of anticlimactic, but it's fine. Loomis, obviously upset about losing, puts on that weird side choke thing that he's been doing and drags him all the way out to the floor. Undisputed Era come out to save him. And this is where we get the weirdness of Loomis, because the three of them are just booting him in the head, and he's just sort of sitting there like Michael Myers style, just taking all the shots. It does flash back to earlier in the match when Roderick Strong had him in the abdominal stretch, and it didn't even look like it hurt him. He just sort of turned his head to him and sort of stared at him, and he's doing the eyes thing because, you know, that's his thing. And Roderick Strong over and over and over again, "Stop looking at me!" Because it's unnerving, because he's got the look on his face, and as I've said for weeks now, he looks like he's got dead babies in his basement, but it's fine. This is all great. The Undisputed Era are coming at him, and it doesn't look like it's hurting him at all, but still, we need to have him saved, even though he doesn't look like he's in pain, or if he is in pain, he's enjoying it, and I need to be reminded that the Problematic Dream still works for NXT, so that's something. And then Mauro Ranallo says Dexter Loomis and the Problematic Dream are the new odd couple, or it's, I don't want, no. Problematic Dream needs to go home, needs to think about what he's done. Moving on, there's a show of respect between Phantasma and Tozawa in the parking lot after their match earlier on in the night, and another failed kidnapping by the masked goons. They try to kidnap Tozawa, and Phantasma chases them away. Lorcan and Birch take on Everrise, and I don't really know what to say to you other than this was slightly longer than a squash. It was a slow slaughter of Everrise by Lorcan and Birch. I feel bad glossing over this because Lorcan and Birch are a team I really like, but at the same time, I don't really know what to say about them. I don't have much to say about them other than they're really good, and if they're in a match, they're probably going to kill somebody. What I love is in their celebration after the match, they go to the center of the ring and they sort of mock the Imperium pose. Now, even though I don't have much to say about them other than they're really good, if the match we get at TakeOver in Your House is Lorcan and Birch versus Imperium, that doesn't hurt my feelings in the slightest. We talked to Keith Lee in the back he says, you know, he hates the Gargano way, and the Gargano way is going to end at TakeOver, which means either he's going to squash Johnny Gargano, which will make me kind of sad, or we're getting that mixed tag match that's been alluded to for a while now. Matt Riddle accepts Thatcher's challenge, and he says, okay, fine, it's only knockout, it's only submission, but you said I can have it wherever I want. How about we go somewhere we're both familiar with? How about we put it in a cage? And here's the thing. I thought, even though this wasn't a match I really needed to see again, you guys saw how I sort of hummed and hawed over it last week, I thought, put the two of them in a cage, that's a great addition to TakeOver. Then later on in the night, we found out we're getting that next week. That's sort of a missed opportunity. That's sort of a missed opportunity by NXT to sort of take a spectacle like that and give it away next week on Wednesday night. Because it is... I've always said you can do takeover quality matches on NXT because the TV audience needs to be rewarded from time to time. But as I said, going back to a lot of what I said last week, the In Your House pay-per-views were known for sort of having matches that were a little different, a little weird, a little more gimmicky. So basically to have these two cage fighters actually in a cage, but it's not a cage match because they're not trying to escape the cage. It's a cage match where they're winning by knockout or submission only. It almost takes you back to the Lion's Den days, and that's something I would love to see them put together, sort of in a pay-per-view setting, because they're going to have to do something to make this pay-per-view feel good. The one thing that I will say about WWE, we've gotten 2 pay-per-views from them now in the empty arena era. I was kind of happy that we didn't get TakeOver Tampa in the way we were supposed to get it, because I like NXT. You guys know I'm biased about NXT, etc. TakeOver is a special brand within NXT. That's why when we went to things like Worlds Collide, and it's like, yeah, it's a cool pay-per-view, it's our NXT people, but it's not really a takeover. This is going to be a takeover, and it's going to be the first takeover of the empty arena era, and I don't know how to feel about that. This could have added to that, but they're just going to give it to us next week, which is a little bit weak, I'm not going to lie. Group A action from the round robin NXT interim intercontinental championship tournament thing. I said it right the first time, it's fine. Kushida versus Drake Maverick. Drake Maverick has to win to keep himself alive, to keep his hopes of getting his job back alive. But he's taking on Kushida, and he has a promo before this match where he basically says, yeah, look, whether you want to call him a junior heavyweight or a flyweight or a cruiserweight or whatever, he's the best out there, and everybody's giving me these cliches about, you know, being the underdog and fighting from underneath. He's like, no, I have to win. I have to win. And he's sort of like developing a spine, which is kind of nice. Like Drake Maverick before was a comedy character, and there's something else that I'm going to talk about after we're done talking about this match that I find very, very interesting. He was a comedy act, and coming into the tournament, he's like a little bit sad. And I don't mean sad like, oh, the sad story of him losing his job. I mean like sad like, I don't want to say pathetic, but I can't find a better word. And he's developing a spine throughout all this. And even if this was his curtain call, then he's done his best work on the way out. And that in itself is kind of tragic. But anyways, there's a collar and elbow tie. I've waffled on about my explanation long enough. I got to get to the match, don't I? Collar and elbow tie up and a side headlock by Kushida, grinding, taking him right down to the ground until it's a grounded side headlock. Rolling armbar by Kushida, basement dropkick. They start trading some chops. There's a handspring elbow by Kushida, and a snap arm lock by Kushida, an arm breaker, and a I cannot read my own writing. I think that says dropkick. Atlas shows up at ringside, who's randomly been Maverick's cheerleader after beating him. Don't know. Armbar with a post by Kushida, followed by another dropkick as we go into the commercial break. Coming back from the commercial break, we're trading some forearms. There's a low dropkick by Maverick. He low dropkicks, Maverick low dropkicks Kushida in the kneecap, taking him face down. Top rope drop kick by Maverick. Straight kick by Kushida. Kushida knee drops the elbow. He gets Maverick face down on the ground and starts dropping knees on his elbow joint, followed by a front slam. And then he does like sort of like a Baszler style stomp, where you know where Baszler stands up the arm and stomps on the elbow that way. Does that as well. Does the key lock in the corner. He works the key lock in the corner for a long time, from the ground to sort of being up on the turnbuckle to being over him and sort of hanging him by his arm and all that. But there's a cross arm breaker that is countered at the very last second by Maverick, and Maverick gets the win. Now, what does this do to the numbers? Because on the other side of the bracket, everybody's kind of winning except... I can't think of his name now. That's fine. Byron Saxton shows up in the crowd that's not a crowd, saying, you know what, we've magically heard from William Regal, except you haven't because he's at home, isn't he? Kushida, Maverick, and Jake Atlas are all tied with a score of 2-1. They are going to have a triple threat match next week, and from the best of my understanding, the winner of that triple threat match goes on to face Phantasma in the finals. Now, I had said that I initially wanted the finals before the Black Wednesday thing happened and the whole story about Drake Maverick losing his job happened and all that sort of thing. I had said I wanted the finals to be Kushida versus Swerve. Now, Swerve ain't in the finals at all. I'd like to see Kushida because I think he's the better option. I don't know what to say about Jake Atlas. There's something about... He's great in the ring, and I love his finisher. That, like, tilt-a-whirl DDT thing that he does is great. The story with Maverick, though, and yes, I know it's distasteful because they've meshed real life with storyline and all that sort of thing, but that meshing of real life and storyline and him genuinely stepping up his game in the past couple of weeks has done enough to get me hooked. And I'd like to see him win this. I really would. Now, does that set a horrible precedent, as a lot of people are saying, for, like... Okay, you got fired for real, but if your character can win enough matches, your character can win you your real-life job back. Does that set a horrible precedent for that, and is it a little distasteful? Maybe, but if that means that this guy who we thought lost his job didn't lose his job, I don't know what to tell you guys. I can't not like that. We get a or I don't know whether it was pre-taped or not, because it was in the... He was on the ramp of the Performance Center, but he was just under a spotlight, and you didn't realize that he was on the ramp until he set the Titantron on fire. But Damian Priest is there, and he's got a couple words for us. He says, the key to infamy is multiple targets. I'm sure that that my title opportunities will come and go, but Balor put this place on the map at TakeOver. I'm going to turn Balor to ash, and obviously the name Damian Priest is going to live forever. So, what do we have at TakeOver so far? We've got Karrion Kross versus Tommaso Ciampa. We've got Damian Priest versus Finn Balor. We've got something between the Gargano, LeRae, Yim Lee situation, and that's good. And that's not including the fact that we might have Lorcan and Birch versus Imperium. The fact that after the match we're about to talk about, I think the women's match is going to be a triple threat. We don't know what Adam Cole's doing yet. I hope it's not another match against Velveteen Dream. I really, really do, because I'm sorry, he shouldn't be part of the show right now. Shoot me in the face. Give me an Adam Cole versus Dexter Lumis match for the fuck of it. It's not going to be the match that people are tuning into this pay-per-view for. You guys know me. I've said for a while now that Undisputed Era and Adam Cole specifically have been the heartbeat of NXT for quite a while now. But the things that people are tuning in for on this show are the matches that don't even have any titles attached. Right now, Kross versus Ciampa and Balor versus Priest are the most intriguing things on the show. And I don't see, personally, I don't see an intriguing enough opponent for Adam Cole to rival my interest in those two matches that were announced tonight. That's just me. I'd love you guys to put it down in the box below. Tell me if you disagree. Put it on the side in the chat if you're watching this on Premiere. I'll be there. I'll wave at you. It's fine. It's wonderful. Rhea Ripley versus Io Shirai. Oh, shit. Rewind a minute. If you follow EC3 on social media, you'll know that he's doing this new, like, badass sort of psycho-looking character. He's calling himself Essential Character the Third. You know, he's raging against the machine and all that sort of thing. Raging against, you know, he's not saying WWE, but basically raging against the machine, so to speak. And he put out a tweet on Instagram and on Twitter tonight that said... ... his name is Spud, and it's all these black and white pictures of him looking all like badass and aggro and whatever, but one of the pictures is Rockstar Spud, aka Drake Maverick, in very similar garb, in very similar look. So that's interesting, because EC3 got let go at the same time Drake Maverick got let go. So, if it's a case of Drake Maverick is going to hang around and so is EC3 and they're going to have this new Rebel thing going on, that's kind of cool. It's one more person that got pulled back from the brink of joblessness, and that doesn't hurt my feelings at all. Or, if Maverick is on his way out and the two of them are going to pair back up like they did in TNA, except much more on a serious level, and they're going to take it to, let's just say it, AEW, ROH, NWA, etc. That doesn't hurt my feelings either, and that would actually get me quite curious. So it's a thing to watch. Go check out Twitter. I think his Twitter is like The Real EC3. He was one of the first ones that came over to NXT and got to keep his real name, along with like Samoa Joe and AJ Styles and all that sort of thing. Rhea Ripley versus Io Shirai is your main event, now that I'm done waffling and now that I totally took all my topics out of order. It's weird because Rhea Ripley came back with a little bit of an edge to her, so she looks like she's on the brink of a heel turn, and Io Shirai, as far as I know, is still playing up the heel persona, but without an audience there, a lot of the things she does in the ring are you know, flash and fire and very endearing stuff to the crowd that's not there. So you've sort of got two really, really aggressive tweeners right now that are only babyface by virtue of the fact that they both got Charlotte Flair in their sights and she's a heel. Now, she's the hardest working woman in wrestling, is she not? She had a match with Ruby Riott on Raw. She shows up later on in this match, spoiler alert, on NXT, and she's facing Bayley in a champion versus champions match on Friday, which I'm not going to watch because I don't care. What I will say is, if you are actually going through a slog of watching Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, which I put on in the background while I'm doing other stuff, if you want to follow somebody who is hilarious on Twitter, just doing like live reaction type stuff, I do encourage you to go check out Cresta Star. I believe it's CRESTASTARR. She does some live reactions and they're fucking hysterical, and they help me sit through a 3-hour Raw or a 2-hour SmackDown that is, you know, headlined by Otis and Braun Strowman. Otis is the guy in the bank because it fell in his hands. Anyways, we don't need to talk about that because this is an NXT review. Dropkick by Io, and there's a boot, and she rakes the back. Rolling lariats by Ripley, a dropkick, a boot, and a front slam. A double stomp by Io in the corner as we go to commercial break. Crossface submission by Io, a side slam in the turnbuckle by Ripley. It looks like it's going to be a sort of a side or a back suplex, but she just sort of bum rushes her, for lack of a better term, into the corner, suplex style. It's interesting. I haven't quite seen it done that way. It's not like when Becky Lynch does an exploder, because they sort of both fall and she takes her, and she's the bigger person, so to make her carry all the weight looked really, really impressive. Top rope superplex by Ripley. Sorry, I lost my space once again. Single forearm knockdown by Ripley because she's a giant. Crossface by Io again. 619 and a springboard dropkick. Suicide dive by Io, but Charlotte Flair shows up on the rampway. Entrance music and all. Io head scissors Ripley off the apron into Charlotte and then follows up with a double knees. There is a leaping DDT by Io, but Charlotte just comes into the ring and says, well, fuck all of this, and boots both of them, stands tall over both of them, and that's how we end the show. So there was a little bit of everything for everybody, and even the people that I'm not sure about, like Dexter Lumis, got to look really, really good on the show. I skipped over, there was an entirely cringy pre-recorded promo by Cameron Grimes because he's going to ride the wave now of getting a fluke win over Finn Balor. And I'm not going to talk about the promo other than the fact that he ended it with, "It's Grimes time." There's nothing else to say to that, is there? But we've got a cruiserweight triple threat match coming up next week. We've got a cage match coming up next week. We've got a pay-per-view that we're building towards that already has 2 really awesome exhibition matches on it. I'm pretty sure coming out of this, we're going to get a triple threat at In Your House. We're going to find out what Adam Cole is doing at the pay-per-view as well. I really hope it's not a match against the Problematic Dream. Let's just all cross our fingers and our toes and whatever else appendages we can spare. But there's a lot of stuff, and they're getting better with the no audience era, because I think and this is WWE across the board, I think they're realizing they can't hold people's attention for long matches. In the no audience era, you don't want to have a whole lot of like 2 or 3 segment like marathon type matches. So they're doing these matches in short bursts. They're doing a lot of storytelling stuff, a lot more promo stuff, and because they're keeping everything short, they're getting more on the show. They're putting more stories into each show, which makes it much more possible for you, if you're not liking everything on the show, to pick out something that you like. If they do 2 Iron Man matches, and that's 2 hours of a show right there, right? And you don't care about any of those 4 wrestlers, then you're not going to care about a show. But if you have a 5-minute match here, and a 10-minute match here, and a 7-minute match here, and a 6-minute match here, and an 11-minute match here, you've got, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 chances that you might have a match that you do enjoy, or a story that you do enjoy, or a star that you do enjoy, or a surprise, or a return, or a debut, or a twist, or a swerve, or something that you will like. I will say, go watch the Shotzi Blackheart promo that they did tonight. If you want something good, if you really want to laugh along with me at something that's cringy as fuck, go watch the Cameron Grimes promo where he ends it with, "It's Grimes time," because that's really fucking lame. Anyways, as I said at the beginning, I hope you guys are doing okay. It's a really crap week for wrestling fans in a lot of regards. For those of you out there that are AEW fans that are looking forward to Double or Nothing this weekend, I will be tweeting along. I will be doing some sort of preview with Guapo at some point, so please come along and join us for that. Let me know what you think. What the hell? Hit me up on Twitter and tell me what your predictions are for Double or Nothing. We'll reach across the aisle. We'll come to the middle of the battlefield of the Wednesday Night War and reach out to our AEW brethren because we're nice like that. Anyways, I've been Spaz, your YWC reality check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later. But for right now, tagging out. Bye, guys.